Hello, everyone. Welcome to Women's Entrepreneurship Week at Minnesota State University, Mankato. I'm Cari Henderson, a junior pursuing a marketing degree and a minor in entrepreneurship. Today, I'm honored to interview Jeanne Carpenter, the president and founder of Perception Inc. Jeanne is a communications professional with a career spanning over 3 decades in public relations, marketing, and business development. As the founder of Perception Inc., a PR consultancy in Minneapolis, she has helped her clients build strong brands and tell compelling stories. Thank you so much for being here with us today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Carrie Joe. And welcome to my kitchen. Um, Doing a little remodeling, like cleaning out my office. So here you are in my kitchen. I have my morning cup, always okay. And I'm delighted to be with you this morning. Thank you for the invitation.
Of course. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to learn different things today, and I just love honestly, the opportunity to have a conversation with you.
Great. I'm ready.
Um, okay, well, I think the first question that I always like to hear is just did you know early on in life that you would want to own and run your own business one day?
Well, here's what I really thought I was going to do. When I left campus, Minnesota State University in Mankato, I thought I'd end up in the CBS control booth and that I would be the producer of the evening news. That's what I thought out in New York. But I ended up teaching high school journalism. That was a long way from New York. I taught in the Wayzata School District, and then we were in Sioux Falls for a while. And I loved it. I did. When we came back, I was recruited by the American Cancer Society and then the Star Tribune. But I must say, Carrie Joe, that I do believe in the back of my mind, I was always thinking about if I'm not in the control booth at CBS, what can I do with the training, with the education that I've received? And how can I parlay that into something that I truly love and I believe I can help others? So I think, yes, my father was very entrepreneurial in Mankato and started businesses, and he was quite involved with the university as well. And so I think at an early age, as we sat around the dinner table, we talked business. We talked about how Mankato was growing and who was behind that growth. I think that stuck with me. So, yes, I do believe it was embedded early on.
I love hearing that. Some people go, no, I never wanted to own my own business. And then other people are like, yeah, I just have that spark, as I like to call it, just to kind of run that.
I'm going
Um,
to tell you, I was working, I was asked to join an ad agency that wanted to develop public relations and social media capability. So I left a very large firm, Weber Shandwick, and this is in Minneapolis, and rolled up my sleeves to build this team inside the ad agency, and public relations was new to the ad agency. So it was very entrepreneurial. We built it from the ground up. And I was there a little over 2 years when in the elevator, I heard myself say, you know how to do this. You've just done it. Now do it for yourself. And by the time I got to the first floor, I was ready. I don't mean to make it sound so easy. There were things I needed to do to come full circle, to pass the torch to my successor at the agency, but I knew it was time. And within a couple of months, I had opened up my own consultancy. So
wow.
those elevator rides can sometimes be inspirational.
Yeah. So as much of our professors tell us about elevator pitches and all the things that happen, we got to take them seriously with that.
That's really good. May I borrow that in my next presentation?
Absolutely.
I think you just know it kind of eats away at you. You look at something and you think, you know what, had I been running this agency, I would have done it differently. I would have brought in expertise to complement whatever, whatever. And so you are beginning to think you're creating the groundwork for the time that you will say, I'm ready. Let's go.
Wow, I think that's amazing. Can we touch on your consultancy a bit more? I would just love to even hear the story and especially just learning the landscape because you started in 2007, is that correct?
I did. Oh my
So I
God.
just wonder how
That's a
that
long
PR
time.
landscape has changed since 2007 to today, even just with social media and how people live their lives. I'd love to hear more about that.
So when I opened up my little office in the downtown Minneapolis warehouse district, we were about 3 blocks from the Twins ballpark, and we were
Mhm.
there until COVID hit, and then we decided, and I worked with I had a freelancer who had worked with me at the large PR firm, and we just decided it's time to pull up stakes. How has it changed? Well, at the very core of what those in the public relations communications industry know how to do, and that is know when you've heard a good story and be able to tell it. And in my business, whether it is a story that will land digitally, which where stories will run if in the Star Tribune, it'll be print and digital. But I'm also working with just some strictly digital news outlets. And you're right, my pitches are not as long for digital editors as perhaps for print. I'm learning how to edit my pitches, but of course today it is social engagement. Can you and the we say in public relations the secret sauce or the X factor is when others tell your story. Gee, did you just read that story in the Star Tribune business section and they tell others and it's kind of the rolling thunder effect. But now, oh my goodness, your social media, your story is just about everywhere. And you tell an honest, authentic story because that's what you need to have shared. You want it shared. So I many times partner with agencies or independent consultants who are truly uh, well versed in developing social media programs for my clients. And so storytelling, understand the basics of what makes news tonight and or today, I should say. At the top of that list is understanding what's timely, what's circulating in the news cycle, what will be circulating in the news cycle. Can you get ahead of that story? Can you get your client in front of that storyteller, that journalist, that social media influencer? I have met some great influencers. Who knew when I opened the door in the warehouse district that I would be partnering with influencers who are extremely important? I've done some media events in New York, and absolutely members of my team are social media influencers who help me to spread the word. Anyway, I just want to summarize by saying it is storytelling. It is storytelling 101. Whether you deliver it across an internal communique for employees or you're placing it on the digital edition of Fortune magazine, it is this a relevant story to be shared? And if the answer is yes, the editor or the reporter or the influencer will lean in and say, tell me more. And thus the story does unfold, or the opportunity to tell the story. You want that reporter to lean in and say, "Tell me more," versus "So what?" If you get a "so what," you need to go back to your laptop and work on that pitch again. But it has changed so dramatically, and um, I just am I'm in awe of how social media advances, builds brands. It could also work in the other direction, as we know. Um, so a part of what I do is I also create communication plans with a crisis communications component. And crisis can be negative comments that are starting to explode across social platforms. So I've learned, I've learned, and I've become a student of social media. I find myself sitting in seminars or online, learning more about social media. Whole new world, whole new world.
Kind of touching on what you were saying there too with like crisis management and everything. Can you give us an example of maybe like a specifically challenging campaign that you were able to navigate successfully?
I was working with an entrepreneur based out of Iowa, and he had worked so long to to um, to take a family recipe for ice cream and to pitch his heart out to acquire the capital in order to open a production facility in northern Iowa. It was delicious, absolutely delicious. And we announced it, and we were on morning shows, the lifestyle shows, and we had social media going, and the brand was taking off, and grocery stores were looking at carrying it. And one night at about 11:30, my phone went off, and I thought, hmm, it's a little late for telemarketers to be calling me. I better pick it up. And it was my client. And he was in his car and he said, there are some glass shards found in our ice cream. There are some glass shards in our ice cream. And I thought, oh boy, here we are, off to the races. But we had written a plan about how we would respond. While he and his team were on the phone notifying the ice cream shops and so forth. I want you to know, I'll skip to the end of the story. Every pint was removed from he was still in a fairly small distribution area. But back here in Minneapolis, I poured myself another cup of coffee and went into my office and started writing the messaging around. We understand what the situation is. We're taking action. Here's what we're doing. And we will continue to report back to you. We had, local media was very interested in what was happening. Social media started to buzz. Why is the XYZ ice cream no longer available at, my favorite ice cream shop and so forth? So the basics of being prepared and knowing what your team is responsible for doing when that call comes, when that crisis hits, that was something we had prepared for. And I, being the communicator, wanted to make sure that we had communications to his business partners, those who were helping to fund the growth, and very much to the retailers who were carrying the buyers, the little ice cream shops, and even a large grocery store chain. So it was kicking into high gear, but we followed a plan that we had rehearsed. And the brand survived and lives on. And best of all, it's been acquired. It's been acquired by another larger ice cream company. And I think you're going to be hearing about that fairly soon. So it's good news to share. Yeah, crisis communications 101. Be
Mhm.
prepared. be ready.
I love that advice, just being prepared for anything that you kind of see too, especially just in entrepreneurship in general. It's having these backup plans, having the ability, with someone else I spoke to, having the ability to pivot on that. What
Oh,
a what a good
totally.
story though, in talking about like reaching out not only to the people who just on the average day-to-day consumer who want the ice cream, but to the businesses who have, been purchasing this ice cream regularly, communicating to them. That's something that never even occurred to me on that front.
Right. And also with crisis communications, you start as you build a brand from the inside out. So notifying and we all had software that helped us to communicate with employees and partners, the distributors of the ice cream. So we weren't loading more ice cream on the truck at 2 in the morning to get to the grocery store by 6. So internal communications first and foremost before you go outside, and internal communications definitely included his supporters, those who had um, who contributed. It was his family members um, and other business partners in the community who were extremely vested in his success. I look back on that every time I buy a pint of his ice cream. I think we were prepared.
Hmm. And what a good thing to know, like that it was handled so well. So you feel safer now knowing like that you are consuming that too. Just like, oh, they have the rules in place. They're gonna make sure that it is like that's what when I see like a really well done PR job, it makes me even more interested in the brand because of how they handle certain situations. That is just a wonderful example.
Exactly. Exactly. In a crisis, trust is your currency. If throughout the growth of your company you have developed that rapport, that trust, then those who have endorsed you, have believed in you, have formed a relationship with you, are following you, believe in you. You've established that trust. And when I conduct crisis trainings, I always say trust is your currency. If you have it, those who have been supportive of you believe in you and believe that you will resolve this issue and are expecting you to, and to keep them informed along the way. Yeah.
Wow, keeping that trust. Just all these little snippets of advice is just really important. I was wondering overall in young professionals who are looking for a career in PR and communications in general, is there like an overarching piece of advice or any little tidbits you would want to give them who may be watching this video today?
Interview your professors. Ask them, set up an interview, an informational interview with your professor. There was a professor on campus. Her name was Professor Ellen Merja, a phenomenal public relations communications teacher. And she would always encourage her students, don't start sending your resume until you and I have had a conversation, have had an interview about what part of public relations do you like? Do you want to be and public relations is telling stories, but it can be telling the brand story, the company's story through a presentation that the chief marketing officer gives or the CEO. So is it public relations? Do you enjoy executive visibility? I call it CEO as brand. And if so, what is it about executive visibility that you really enjoy? Do you like pitching the client to a national conference to get the client behind that podium to present? Do you like speech writing? Are you really good at crafting a story pitch? And do you understand relationship building with journalists? That it's not always pushing your pitches out. It's developing, the rapport, the relationship, following, following a journalist to know, to understand their beat and to not annoy them with your responses to their stories, but every once in a while saying, Neil St. Anthony, in your column on Sunday, what really got me thinking was, and that might be a good lead in for you to be able to offer another story source. Doesn't necessarily need to be your client that you provide to the columnist. So it's, what do you enjoy doing? And I must say, having worked in a very large, I started in community relations at the Star Tribune, and that very much was public relations. And I was responsible for getting the publisher out to meet his constituencies, his readers. I really enjoyed it, and I planted that. Where should the publisher be? How should he connect? And what is it that we want to share with our young subscribers? Let's get them into a few classrooms. Let's get them in front of the Chamber of Commerce. Anyway, that was my first foray into executive visibility. And so figure out what it is you like. And at a large PR agency, if you've done an internship, you know that they throw you in. They say, let's see what this young woman has, what she knows how to do. So soak up as much as you can if you're looking at internships. And if you're starting a company and you know that an important element is to announce and continue to make your brand visible, your product, your service. Do a lot of coffees if it isn't in the budget right away to bring in some communications help. Do a lot of coffees with those out there who are more than willing to help with the basics of. Boy, I went on for a really long time. If I were media training myself, I'd say, nip it, Jeanne. That was too long. That was too long.
What great pieces of advice, though, to give people not only just pursuing PR, but also people starting their own businesses. And, people really are willing to help others. Like, even just being asked, like, I know that you are so well versed in this. Could you help me with this? Like, I'd really appreciate that. People really
Exactly.
are willing to help, especially if you're a young professional. I mean, even just me asking people to review my resume, like, they will put down anything and just be like, yes, we'll help you. I think
Yeah.
that's a great piece of advice too. And having your professors, interviewing them, I mean, they're really there to see you thrive and they want to look back and go like, wow, they were my student 10 years ago. Look where they are now.
Exactly.
I think that was a great piece of advice to give anyone watching.
I always knew when Professor Merja put the PR assignment up on the board, it was interview someone in PR. And I would hear from students from Minnesota State Mankato, like in rapid succession. And really loved it, really enjoyed, because no two students had the same questions, which was great. Got me to thinking. Um, yes, and your professors, some of them may have come from the news side of the organization as well, or your business professors have tremendous experience and contacts, and asking for, um, for the opportunity to be introduced to someone is magical, many times magical, and helps you to take one step out from campus and begin. Networking 101, very important. I wanted to mention that as a part of my career, although I saw myself very much as a public relations communicator, I for 2 years was the chair of the Twin Cities Advertising Award show called The Show. And when the show is hosted again in the fall by the Minnesota Advertising Federation, I encourage you to attend. And if to see the work, to meet the people behind the work. Um, and then I was president of the Advertising Federation, and we knew that we needed to be more responsive to bright young people coming out of off campus and into the business world. So we started something called AdFed 2, Advertising Federation 2. And I encourage you to look into that as well. It doesn't mean that you are looking to join an ad agency or sit in a marketing capacity behind a desk, but what you will learn from others who have been freshly off campus as you are. And the programming is truly an extension of what you've learned either in the classroom or during your internship. So AdFed 2, and also watch for the show. It's usually, I want to say it's usually right about now. I want to maybe November, but take a look at that. There are many other organizations up here as well, that work with entrepreneurs. There's Women in Media, a variety of opportunities for you to take part, meet people, ask questions, and be inspired by the work of others.
Wow. Thank you so much. I really appreciate everything that you said. I'm definitely going to go out of this, start talking to my professors more, asking those questions, and even attending those like little snippets that you gave too. So the AdFed 2 and then the show, I think that's a really
Yeah,
good piece of advice, especially during this time of year as well.
exactly. Exactly.
Hmm.
You always need inspiration. There were
Yeah.
times in my business where it became very quiet, and I would set up a coffee with someone who had been out on her own or his own for a while to say, how do you manage the hills and the valleys of being so crazy busy? And then all of a sudden, things are, how do you hang in there?
Hmm.
And if you ask that question, how is it that you hung in there? What was it that inspired you to take that risk to expand your business in that direction? What kept you up at night and how did you figure it out? Night, boy, you learn, you learn.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you so much for being willing to be interviewed today. I know it means a lot to everyone watching the Women in Entrepreneurship Week videos. So I just want to thank you so much for all of the advice and the stories. I just love hearing from amazing professionals like yourself.
Well, and I encourage those of you out there in Zoom listening land, feel free to contact me. I think Carrie Joe and you have my email. I'm happy. And if there are any web developers out there, I need help with my website. So any questions, I'd be more than happy. I'm frequently in Mankato as well. So um, by all means, don't hesitate. I'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll include some information where they can reach out, and I think that'll be a great thing. Thank you
Great.
so much. You have a
Thank
wonderful day.
Great to meet you, Carrie Joe.
Great to
Bye-bye.
meet you too.
Go Mavs. Go Mavs. Bye-bye.